My daughter's husband called me a burden at Thanksgiving. Now he's begging me for a loan. Imagine giving your life to a family who never sees you, never values your sacrifices. Picture sitting at a holiday table hearing words that cut deeper than any knife, but keeping your face calm, your heart steady. This is my story, a story of betrayal and quiet power, of holding secrets and biding time. My name is Linda Parker, and I'm 64 years old. For decades, I held my family together with love, money, and patience. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Mom, can you pick up Tyler from soccer? Practice? Mark's got a client meeting, and I'm swamped with Grace's dance recital prep. I balanced the phone between my ear and shoulder while folding Emily's laundry. Of course, sweetheart. What time? 4:30. You're a lifesaver. The line went dead before I could respond. 20 years of this. 20 years since Robert died, and I stepped into the role of the family's invisible support system. Another errand for Grandma's super servant? Helen asked from my kitchen table, watching me sort through Emily's grocery receipts. At 72, my old friend had no patience for what she called my martyrdom complex. They need help, Helen. That's what family does. Family appreciates help. Family doesn't take it for granted. I ignored her pointed look and grabbed my car keys. Tyler would be waiting. The soccer field was muddy from yesterday's rain. Tyler climbed into my passenger seat, cleats leaving dirt on my floor mats. Thanks for picking me up, Grandma. Dad said he'd be here, but... He shrugged, teenage disappointment masked behind indifference. Your father works hard to provide for the family. Yeah, but... he promised. Tyler stared out the window. He promises a lot of things. At Emily's house, I found Mark in his home office, feet up on the desk, scrolling through his phone. Hey, Linda. Thanks for grabbing the kid. This client's being a real pain about the budget. No problem. How's the business going? Mark's jaw tightened. Fine. Everything's fine. Just some cash flow issues. You know how it is. I did know. I'd been quietly covering their mortgage shortfalls for 6 months. Emily bustled in, arms full of Grace's costumes. Mom, you're amazing. I don't know what we'd do without you. Probably learn to manage your own schedules, Mark muttered, not looking up from his phone. Emily shot him a warning look. Mark. What? I'm just saying maybe we should start handling our own stuff. Can't rely on family bailouts forever. The word bailouts hit like a slap. I kept my expression neutral, but my hands trembled slightly as I reached for my purse. Well, I should get going. Sunday dinner tomorrow? Actually, Mark said, finally looking at me. Maybe we should skip this week. Family time, you know. Emily's face flushed. Mark, it's fine. I interrupted. I understand. But I didn't understand. Not the casual dismissal, not the word bailouts, not the way Emily didn't fight for our tradition. That evening I sat in my empty house, Helen's words echoing in my mind. I pulled out my checkbook and began calculating. Mortgage help, $8,400 over 6 months. Grocery money, $200 weekly for 8 months. Childcare savings, countless hours. Car repairs, school supplies, emergency funds. The numbers stared back at me, a testament to my invisible generosity. I thought about Mark's word. Bailouts. As if my love was charity. As if my presence was a burden. I closed the checkbook and went to my bedroom, where I kept a small lockbox. Inside were documents Mark and Emily had forgotten about. The co-signer agreement on their house. My name right there beside theirs. Insurance policies. investment statements they'd never seen. For 20 years, I'd made myself indispensable by being invisible. But invisible didn't mean powerless. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Sorry about Mark tonight. He's stressed. About work. Love you, Mom." I typed back, "Love you too, sweetheart." But as I turned off the light, I wondered when love had become synonymous with convenience, and when I'd become comfortable being taken for granted. Outside my window, the neighborhood was quiet. Most families were probably sharing Sunday evening, together watching TV, talking about their week. I used to have that with Robert. Then I tried to recreate it with Emily's family. But somewhere along the way, I became the help instead of the heart. Helen was right about one thing. Family should appreciate help, not expect it. The question was, what was I going to do about it? I fell asleep thinking about Mark's client meeting that had taken priority over his son, and Emily's quick dismissal of our cancelled dinner. Tomorrow, I decided, things might start looking different. "Linda, can you grab the cranberry sauce from the pantry?" Emily called from the kitchen, her voice tight with hosting stress. I navigated around the crowd of relatives filling the house. 23 people for Thanksgiving, and somehow I'd become the unofficial kitchen staff. "The potatoes need mashing," Sarah announced, appearing at my elbow with her youngest clinging to her hip, "and Jake needs his diaper changed." "I'm not the babysitter, Sarah." She blinked, surprised by my tone. "I just thought that Grandma would handle it. I know." In the living room, Mark held court with his stories about his expanding business. I caught fragments as I worked. "Pulling in 6 figures next quarter. Investors are fighting over us. The same investors who'd been mysteriously absent when the mortgage payments were due." "Linda," Mark's voice boomed across the room, "tell everyone about your little side job at the library." It wasn't a side job. I volunteered there twice a week, reading to children. But the way he said it made it sound like a hobby for old ladies with too much time. "It's volunteer work," I corrected. "Right, volunteer." He grinned at his audience. Must be nice to have that kind of free time. Emily's sister Janet laughed nervously. "Well, retirement has its perks." "I'm not retired," I said quietly, but no one heard me. They were all listening to Mark's next story. Dinner was chaos. 23 people crammed around tables we'd pushed together, conversations overlapping, children spilling drinks. I found myself at the far end, next to Great Uncle, Roy, who was mostly deaf, and Tyler, who was mostly sullen. "Tyler, tell us about school," I prompted. "It's fine." He picked at his turkey. "Dad was supposed to come to my debate competition last week. I had a client emergency," Mark called from the other end. "You know how it is, buddy. Business comes first." "Business always comes first," Tyler muttered. Mark stood up, wine glass in hand. "Before we dig into dessert, I want to make a toast." The room quieted. Emily smiled expectantly. "To family," Mark began, "and to all the people who support us through thick and thin." His eyes swept the table. "Especially to my beautiful wife, who somehow manages to keep this crazy household running, even when she's supporting not just our kids, but—" His gaze landed on me. "Well, let's just say some family members need more support than others." A few nervous chuckles rippled around the table. "To Emily," Mark continued, raising his glass higher, "for carrying the load, even for those who don't pull their weight." The silence that followed was deafening. I felt 22 pairs of eyes on me. Some pitying, some uncomfortable, all aware that I'd just been publicly humiliated. Emily's face was scarlet. "Mark?" "What?" "I'm just being honest. We all know who contributes and who doesn't." I set down my fork carefully. My hands weren't shaking. I was proud of that. "Excuse me," I said, standing. "I think I'll start clearing the dishes." "Mom, you don't have to—" Emily started. "It's fine. Sweetheart, I know my place." I began collecting plates, the conversation gradually resuming around me. In the kitchen, I methodically scraped leftovers and loaded the dishwasher. Sarah appeared with more dishes, but I waved her away. "I've got it." "Mom, are you—" "I said I've got it." Grace wandered in later, her small face concerned. "Grandma, are you sad?" I smoothed her hair. "No, sweetheart. Grandma's just thinking." "About what Uncle Mark said?" Out of the mouths of babes. What do you think Uncle Mark meant? "I don't know, but it wasn't very nice." She hugged my waist. "I think you pull your weight. You pull everybody's weight." Smart girl. Too smart for her own good. By the time I finished cleaning, most of the relatives had left. Emily found me in the kitchen hanging up the dish towel. "Mom, I'm so sorry. Mark didn't mean—" "Yes, he did." I looked at my daughter, this woman I'd raised, supported, and loved unconditionally. "The question is, do you agree with him?" "Of course not. You're not a burden, you're—" "I'm what, Emily? Your built-in babysitter, your emergency loan officer, your unpaid housekeeper." "You're my mother." "Yes, I am." I picked up my purse. "I think I'll head home now." "But we always do dessert together. It's tradition." I paused at the door. Some traditions need to change. The drive home was quiet. I didn't cry. There would be time for tears later. Instead, I thought about Grace's words. I pull everybody's weight. When had I become the pack mule of this family? At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat in Robert's old chair. The house felt different somehow. Not empty, peaceful. For the first time in months, no one needed me for anything. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Mom, please don't be upset. Mark's just stressed about work." I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it without responding. Tomorrow, I decided, would be different. I was done being the family's invisible support system. If they wanted to treat me like a burden, they could see what life was like without me carrying the load. "You look different," Helen observed the next morning, studying me over her coffee cup. Lighter somehow. "I feel different." I opened my laptop and pulled up my bank statements. "Helen, I need to show you something." For the next hour, I walked her through 20 years of financial records. The house down payment I'd helped Emily and Mark with, the car loans I'd co-signed, the monthly transfers that had kept them afloat when Mark's business stuttered. Jesus, Linda. They have no idea, do they? None. I clicked through to another screen. "And this is what I've been keeping back." Helen's eyebrows shot up. "That's a substantial nest egg. Robert's life insurance, plus my investments." I never told them the real amount. I closed the laptop. They think I'm living paycheck to paycheck on Social Security. "Smart woman. So what's the plan?" "I'm going to stop being invisible." That afternoon, Sarah called. "Mom, I hate to ask, but Jake needs new shoes, and I'm short on rent money. Could you—" "No." Silence. "No." I said no, Sarah. I can't help you this time. "But you always help. It's just $100. "I always help because you always ask, but I won't be doing that anymore." "What's gotten into you? Did Emily, say something. This isn't about Emily. This is about me learning to say no. But you really need to figure it out yourself. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but it felt good. For the first time in years, I'd put my needs before someone else's crisis. Emily called an hour later. Mom, Sarah says you refused to help her with rent? That's correct. But she has children, Mom. She's struggling. Sarah has been struggling for 15 years. Maybe it's time she stopped struggling and started managing. I don't understand what's happening with you. I'm tired, Emily. Tired of being everyone's solution to everything. You're acting like we're taking advantage of you. I almost laughed. Aren't you? Of course not. We love you. We need you. You need my money. There's a difference. That's not fair. Mark called me a burden who doesn't pull my weight, in front of the entire family. And you said nothing. Silence stretched between us. He was drunk, Emily said finally. Drunk people tell the truth, sweetheart. They just don't have the filter to lie about it. So what are you saying? You're cutting us off? I'm saying I'm reevaluating what family means. That evening, I made a phone call I'd been putting off for months. Davidson Legal, this is Margaret. Hi, Margaret. This is Linda Parker. Is Tom available? Tom Davidson had been Robert's lawyer and mine for 30 years. Within an hour, I was sitting in his office with a stack of documents. Linda, I have to ask, is everything all right? You seem determined. I'm reassessing my estate plans, and I need to understand my rights regarding the house I co-signed for. The house in Maplewood? Your daughter's place? Yes. If they default on payments, what are my options? Tom's expression grew serious. As co-signer, you're equally responsible for the debt, but you also have equal claim to the property. Are they having financial difficulties? They're having responsibility difficulties. I see. He pulled out a file. Linda, according to these records, you've been making partial payments on this mortgage for 6 months. They don't know you've been covering their mortgage. They think it's coming from their account. I've been transferring money to cover the shortfalls. Tom leaned back in his chair. That's generous and legally complicated. If you want to protect yourself, we need to document these payments properly. I want to protect myself, Tom. For the first time in 20 years, I want to think about what's best for Linda Parker. Then let's talk about your will. We spent 2 hours restructuring everything. My assets, my wishes, my protections. When I left his office, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades. Power, not over other people, but over my own life. At home, I looked around my small, comfortable house, my haven, my sanctuary. Nobody else's problem to solve or burden to carry. My phone was full of missed calls from Sarah, but I didn't return them. For once, someone else could figure out their own crisis. Tomorrow I decided I'd start phase 2, showing my family exactly how much weight I'd been pulling all along. Grandma, why aren't you coming to dinner anymore? Grace asked when she called Tuesday evening. Who told you I wasn't coming to dinner? Mom said you were busy with your own stuff now. Is that what she said? She seemed sad about it. Dad didn't seem to care much. Of course he didn't. Grace, do you think I should come to dinner even if I'm not wanted there? But you are wanted. I want you there. Tyler wants you there too. He said so yesterday. What about your parents? Grace was quiet for a moment. Mom wants you there, but she's afraid to say so. Dad. I don't know what Dad wants anymore. Smart girl. too smart. How about this? You and Tyler come have dinner with me tomorrow night instead. Really? Just us? Just us. And we'll order pizza. Wednesday evening, my grandchildren showed up with overnight bags. Mom said we could stay over, Tyler announced, dumping his backpack by the door. She said you probably get lonely. Did she now? Are you lonely, Grandma? Grace asked, settling onto my couch like she owned it. Sometimes. But being alone and being lonely are different things. What's the difference? Tyler asked, genuinely curious. Being alone is about physical space. Being lonely is about feeling unseen or unvalued. Like how you felt at Thanksgiving, Grace said quietly. I sat down between them. Yes, like that. Dad was mean, Tyler said. Mom told him so after you left. Did she? Yeah, they had a big fight. Dad said he was just being honest, and Mom said there's a difference between honest and cruel. Your mother's a smart woman, but not smart enough to stick up for you when it mattered, Tyler added. These children saw everything. Thursday morning, Emily called while I was making breakfast for Tyler and Grace. Mom, the kids said they're staying with you? They asked, too. I said yes. But they have school today. I'm perfectly capable of getting them to school. I know. It's just... This isn't like you. Taking the kids without asking, refusing to help Sarah, missing family dinners. You're right. It's not like me. Maybe that's the problem. What does that mean? It means maybe I've been too accommodating for too long. You're scaring me, Mom. Good. That means you're finally paying attention. After school, Grace had dance practice and Tyler had debate team. In the old days, I would have coordinated with Emily about pickup times and dinner plans. Instead, I handled it myself. The children seemed to like the independence as much as I did. Can we do this more often? Grace asked as we ate pizza that evening. Do what? Just be together without everyone else's drama. Tyler nodded. It's peaceful here. Nobody's fighting about money or who's doing what. Your parents fight about money? All the time, Tyler said. Dad keeps saying business is great, but then they whisper about bills, and Mom keeps saying she needs to ask you for help, but Dad gets mad when she does. What does your dad say about me helping? That it makes him look bad, Grace answered, like he can't provide for his family. But he takes the help anyway. He says it's temporary, that you offered, that family helps family. I absorbed this information quietly. Mark felt emasculated by my help but took it anyway. Emily felt guilty asking but asked anyway. And I felt used but gave anyway. What? Do you two think about all this? Tyler and Grace exchanged a look. I think grown-ups make things too complicated, Grace said finally. And I think Dad's pride is more important to him than Mom's peace of mind, Tyler added. You're both right. Friday morning my phone rang early. Mom, I need to ask you something. Emily's voice was tight. Mark's business partner called yesterday. There's some loan Mark didn't tell me about. A big one. How big? $15,000. Due next month. That is big. Mom, did you know about this? I paused, choosing my words carefully. I knew Mark was having financial difficulties. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't my place to tell you about your husband's business decisions. But you've been helping us with the mortgage, haven't you? There it was. The truth, finally. Yes. For how long? 6 months. 6 months. Her voice was flat. We've been living in our house because you've been paying for it. Partially paying for it. Mom, why didn't you tell me? Because you didn't ask. You were happy to pretend everything was fine as long as the bills got paid. That's not fair. Fair is a child's word, Emily. Adults deal with reality. So what do we do now? Now you and Mark figure out how to pay your own bills. But the loan is Mark's problem to solve. Mom, please, we need help. You need to need less help. I hung up, my heart pounding. 20 years of being the family's financial safety net. And finally, I was cutting the cord. Tyler and Grace were at the kitchen table, eating cereal and pretending not to listen. Is everything okay, Grandma? Grace asked. Everything's changing, sweetheart. Change is hard, but sometimes it's necessary. Are you still going to help Mom and Dad? I'm going to help them learn to help themselves. Tyler looked up from his bowl. Good. It's about time. Linda, there's a man at the door asking for Mark, Emily said when she called Saturday morning. He says he's from Peterson Construction. And? Mark's not here. He went to play golf. This man seems upset. What did you tell him? That Mark would call him back, but he says he's been waiting 3 weeks for Mark to return his calls. I closed my eyes. Peterson Construction, Mark's supposed business partner who was supposedly fighting investors off with a stick. Emily, is Mark's car in the garage? No, why would... Oh. The pieces clicked. He told this man he wasn't here, didn't he? That would be my guess. Mom, what's going on? And don't tell me it's not my business. I'm his wife. You need to have a conversation with your husband about his business practices. What? Do you know that I don't? I drove over. Emily was pacing in her kitchen while Tyler and Grace sat at the counter, homework spread between them but clearly listening. Kids, why don't you go play in the backyard? I suggested. We can hear everything from there anyway, Tyler pointed out. At least pretend to give us privacy. They left, grumbling. Emily immediately grabbed my arm. Mom, tell me what you... No. Mark's business isn't doing as well as he claims. How do you know? Because I pay attention. Because his stories don't add up. Because desperate men don't hide in their garages when business partners come calling. But he said what he needed to say to save face. Emily, when was the last time you actually saw his business accounts? He handles all that. He says it's too complicated for me to understand. And you believed him? Emily sank into a chair. I wanted to believe him. It was easier than asking hard questions. Like how we've been able to afford this house on his inconsistent income. You've been covering more than just mortgage shortfalls, haven't you? The utilities last month, Grace's dance lessons, Tyler's debate tournament fees. Oh, God. Emily buried her face in her hands. How much, Mom? How much have you been covering? I pulled out my phone and showed her my bank app. This is what I've transferred to your accounts over the past year. Emily stared at the screen. $12,000. Give or take. $12,000. And Mark let me worry that we couldn't afford groceries. Mark's been letting... You worry about a lot of things he could have prevented. The front door slammed. Mark's voice carried from the hallway. Em, whose car is in the... Oh. He stopped when he saw me. Linda, what brings you by? We need to talk, Emily said. About what? About Peterson Construction. About the loan. About the fact that my mother has been subsidizing our life for the past year. Mark's face went through several expressions before settling on defensive anger. It's not like that. Then what is it like? I asked. It's temporary. The business hit a rough patch, but we're turning it around. By hiding from your creditors? I wasn't hiding. I was at the golf course, networking. That's how business works. This is how business works. Emily held up my phone, showing him the transfer amounts. My mother paying our bills while you play golf? I didn't ask her to do that. But you didn't refuse it either, I pointed out. Family helps family. You offered. I offered to help, not to carry you. Tyler appeared in the doorway. Dad, there's a man outside who says he's been waiting for you. Mark's face paled. Tell him I'm not. Tell him yourself. Tyler interrupted. I'm tired of lying for you. Tyler! Emily snapped. No, Mom. I'm tired of it. Dad makes me lie to his business partners, lie to bill collectors, lie to teachers about why my fees are late. I'm done. Grace peeked around her brother. There are 2 men now. They look official. Mark ran both hands through his hair. This is a nightmare. This is reality, I corrected. The question is, what are you going to do about it? I don't know, okay? I don't know. The business is failing. The investors pulled out. And I owe more money than I can possibly pay. Back. Emily stared at him. How much more? Emily, how much, Mark? $37,000. The number hung in the air like a toxic cloud. $37,000, Emily repeated slowly. And you let me feel guilty about asking my mother for grocery money. I was trying to figure it out. By lying to me, by letting Mom carry us, by making our children lie for you. I was trying to protect you. From what? The truth? Our actual circumstances? The fact that we're broke? Tyler stepped forward. You weren't protecting anyone, Dad. You were protecting yourself. Tyler, you don't understand. I understand that Grandma has been paying our bills while you pretended to be successful. I understand that you humiliated her at Thanksgiving for not pulling her weight when she's been pulling all of our weight. That's enough, Mark said sharply. No, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. Tyler's voice cracked with emotion. Grandma never lies to us. She never makes us feel ashamed. She never calls us burdens. Grace started crying. Emily pulled her daughter close, her own eyes filling with tears. I stood up. Mark, I think you should go deal with the men outside. What am I supposed to tell them? The truth. That you owe money you don't have, and you need to make payment arrangements. And if they say no, then you face the consequences of your choices. He left reluctantly. Through the window, we watched him talk to 2 men in suits. His body language told the whole story. Defeated, apologetic, desperate. I'm sorry, Mom, Emily whispered. I'm so sorry I let this happen. You didn't let anything happen. You trusted your husband. I let you carry us while I buried my head in the sand. Yes, you did. So what happens now? I looked at my daughter, at my grandchildren, at this family that had become so dependent on my invisible support. They'd forgotten how to stand on their own. Now you learn to walk without me holding you up. What if we fall? Then you learn to get back up. That's what grown-ups do. Tyler wiped his eyes. Will you help us learn? I'll help you learn, but I won't do the walking for you. Outside, Mark was shaking hands with the men. Whatever he'd told them, it had bought him time. But time was, all it was, a temporary reprieve from consequences that were still coming. The question was, would my family use that time to grow up, or to find new ways to avoid reality. I want everyone here Sunday at 2 o'clock, I announced when I called Emily Saturday evening. You, Mark, Sarah, Tyler, and Grace. Mom, what's this about? It's about having an honest conversation for the first time in 20 years. I don't think Mark's ready for... Mark doesn't get to decide if he's ready. None of you do. I'm done accommodating everyone else's comfort level. Sunday afternoon, they gathered in my living room like reluctant students called to the principal's office. Sarah looked annoyed. Mark looked cornered and Emily looked terrified. Tyler and Grace flanked me on the couch like bodyguards. I asked you all here because we need to establish some new ground rules, I began. Ground rules? Sarah scoffed. We're not children, Mom. No, you're not. You're adults who've been behaving like children, and I'm the adult who enabled that behavior. I opened the folder Tom Davidson had prepared for me. Let's start with some facts. Sarah, in the past 5 years, I've given you $18,000 in loans that were never repaid. Those weren't loans, they were gifts, I know. Because you never intended to pay them back and I never expected you to. That stops now. Sarah's face flushed. You're my mother. You're supposed to help when I need it. I'm supposed to love you. I'm supposed to guide you. I'm not supposed to subsidize your refusal to live within your means. I turned to Emily. And Mark. Your turn. I've been covering mortgage shortfalls, utility bills, and various expenses for over a year. The total is just over $14,000. Mark shifted uncomfortably. We didn't ask you to. You didn't refuse either. And Mark, you stood up at Thanksgiving dinner and called me a burden who doesn't pull her weight, in front of our entire family. I was drunk. I didn't mean... You meant every word. You were just drunk enough to say them. Tyler leaned forward. Tell them about the house, Grandma. Emily frowned. What about the house? I pulled out another document. This is the co-signer agreement for your mortgage. My name is on your house deed. If you default, I'm equally responsible for the debt and equally entitled to the property. The room went silent. You own half our house? Mark asked. I own half the liability for your house, which means I have a say in what happens to it. What's that supposed to mean? Sarah demanded. It means I'm done being the family's invisible safety net. From now on, if you need help, you ask for it directly, honestly, and you explain exactly why you need it and how you plan to pay it back. That's ridiculous, Sarah said. Family doesn't charge interest. Family also doesn't take advantage of each other. But here we are. Emily found her voice. Mom, what are you saying exactly? I'm saying I love you all, but I'm done enabling you. Sarah, I will not give you any more money unless you show me a budget, proof that you've cut unnecessary expenses, and a realistic repayment plan. Repayment plan? Sarah stood up. You want me to pay you back for helping your own daughter? I want you to act like an adult who borrows money, not a child who expects allowance. This is unbelievable. This is overdue. I turned to Emily and Mark. I will continue to cover your mortgage for 3 more months. After that, you figure it out. I'll help with genuine emergencies, but not with poor planning. 3 months? Mark's voice cracked. That's not enough time to... To what? Turn your failing business around? Pay off $37,000 in debt? You're right. It's not enough time, which is why you need to make some hard decisions. Like what? Tyler spoke up. Like selling the house and moving somewhere you can actually afford. Tyler! Emily gasped. What? Everyone's thinking it. Dad's business is broke. You can't pay your bills without Grandma's help. and you're fighting all the time about money. Maybe it's time to downsize." Grace nodded. "I'd rather live in a smaller house where people don't yell about money than live in a big house where everyone's stressed all the time." Mark stared at his children. "You want us to sell the house?" "We want you to be honest with us," Tyler said. "And we want you to stop treating Grandma like she owes us something, when she's the only reason we've been able to stay in that house at all." I looked around the room at these adults I'd raised and supported and enabled. "I have one more thing to say, and then you can all decide how you want to respond." I pulled out the final document from Tom's folder. "This is my revised will." Sarah sat back down. "I've structured things differently. There are provisions for education funds for Tyler and Grace, but the bulk of my estate will go to charity unless certain conditions are met." "What conditions?" Emily whispered. "Financial independence. I will not leave my money to people who haven't learned to manage their own money responsibly." "You're blackmailing us," Sarah accused. "I'm parenting you. At 57 and 53 years old, you still need parenting." Mark stood up abruptly. "This is insane. You're punishing us for accepting help you offered." "I'm correcting a pattern that's been unhealthy for all of us." "So what? We're supposed to just figure everything out on our own now?" Sarah's voice was shrill. "You're supposed to learn to stand on your own feet, yes." Tyler stood up and moved to stand behind my chair. "I think Grandma's right." Grace joined him. "Me too." Emily looked at her children, then at her husband, then at me. "Mom, I understand you're hurt, and you have every right to be, but this feels like you're abandoning us." "I'm not abandoning you. I'm stopping the abandonment of myself." "What does that mean?" "It means, for 20 years, I've put everyone else's needs before my own. I've made myself indispensable by being invisible. I've enabled all of you to avoid growing up by cushioning every fall, solving every problem, and paying for every mistake." I stood up, feeling stronger than I had in years. "That ends now. Not because I don't love you, but because I do. Real love doesn't enable dysfunction. Real love requires people to grow." Mark's face was red with frustration. "Fine. You want to cut us off? Cut us off. We'll figure it out." "I hope you do. And if we can't, then you'll face the consequences of your choices, just like everyone else in the world." Sarah grabbed her purse. "I can't believe you're doing this to your own family." "I can't believe it took me 20 years to do it," she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Mark looked at Emily. "Are you coming?" Emily looked torn between her husband and her children, who were still standing protectively behind me. "Mom," Tyler said quietly, "we don't have to choose sides, but we do have to choose what's right." Grace nodded. "And what's right is treating Grandma with respect and learning to take care of ourselves." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "You're right. You're both right." She looked at Mark. "We need to have a serious conversation about our priorities." "Our priorities? What about her priorities?" "Oh, Mark gestured at me. "She's the one changing all the rules." "Because the old rules weren't working," Emily said firmly. "For anyone." Mark stared at his wife, perhaps seeing her clearly for the first time in years. "So you're taking her side?" "I'm taking the side of honesty and responsibility and treating the woman who raised me with the respect she deserves." Mark left without another word. Emily collapsed into a chair. "What have I done to my marriage?" "You've started telling the truth," I said gently. "That's not what destroyed your marriage. The lies and denial were already doing that." "Tyler," sat on the arm of his mother's chair. "Mom, do you really want to stay married to someone who thinks it's okay to call Grandma a burden?" Emily wiped her eyes. "I don't know what I want anymore." "That's okay," I said. "You don't have to know everything right now. You just have to stop pretending that ignoring problems makes them go away." Grace climbed into her mother's lap. "We'll figure it out, Mom. Together." Emily hugged her daughter tight. "What if we lose the house?" "Then we'll find a place we can afford," Tyler said practically. "It's not the end of the world, but your friends, your school. We'll still be our friends and our school, even if we move across town," Grace finished. I watched my daughter realize that her children were more mature than she'd given them credit for. More mature, perhaps, than she'd been herself. "Mom," Emily said, looking at me with something that might have been respect. I'm sorry I let Mark talk to you that way. I'm sorry I took your help for granted. I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. I made me feel invisible, sweetheart, by never demanding to be seen. So what happens now? Now you learn to see yourselves, clearly, all of you, and you learn that being a family means supporting each other, not using each other." Tyler grinned. "Does this mean we can still come for pizza nights?" "As long as you're coming because you want to spend time with me, not because you need something from me." "Deal," Grace said immediately. Emily nodded slowly. "Deal." As they prepared to leave, Emily turned back to me. "Mom, what you did today, it was brave. It was overdue. Maybe. But it was still brave." After they left, I sat in my quiet house, feeling something I hadn't experienced in 2 decades. Peace. Not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of truth, the peace of boundaries, the peace of self-respect. My phone rang. "Helen." "How did it go?" "Exactly as terrifying and necessary as you said it would be." "Good. You proud of yourself?" I considered the question. "Yes, I think I am. About damn time." The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. Sarah didn't call. Mark avoided me completely when I saw him at Tyler's debate tournament. Emily called twice, both times to update me on their financial planning sessions. But the conversations were stilted, formal. "Mom, I wanted you to know we met with a financial counselor," she reported during our second call. "How did that go?" "Eye-opening and humbling." She paused. "We're putting the house on the market." I felt a surprising pang of sadness. "How do you feel about that?" "Scared, relieved, mostly embarrassed that it took this long to face reality." "There's no shame in downsizing, Emily. Tyler keeps reminding me of that. He found us a rental house that's half the mortgage payment. It's smaller, but it's in the same school district." "And Mark?" "Mark is adjusting. He closed the business officially yesterday. He's looking for a regular job." "That must be difficult for him." "Everything's difficult for him right now, but maybe that's not a bad thing." The following Friday, Tyler called. "Grandma, can Grace and I come over? Parents are having another serious discussion, and we're tired of listening to it." "Of course." They arrived with homework and worried faces. "Are they getting divorced?" Grace asked without preamble. "I don't know, sweetheart. Are they talking about divorce?" "Not exactly," Tyler said. "But Dad keeps saying he feels like a failure. And Mom keeps saying she's tired of feeling like she has to apologize for wanting honesty." "And how do you two feel about all this?" Grace flopped onto my couch. "I feel like I'm watching grown-ups learn how to be grown-ups." "Insightful observation," I told Mom she should have stuck up for you at Thanksgiving," Tyler added. "She said she knows that now, but she was afraid of making Dad angry. Fear makes people do things they regret." "Were you afraid when you told us all off last Sunday?" Grace asked, terrified. "But you did it anyway." "Sometimes being brave means being afraid and doing the right thing anyway." Tyler pulled out his phone. "Dad texted. He wants to know if he can come over." I looked at my grandchildren. "What do you think?" "I think he should apologize," Grace said firmly. "I think he should mean it," Tyler added. "Tell him he can come over." 20 minutes later, Mark stood in my doorway, looking like he'd aged 5 years in 2 weeks. "Linda, can we talk?" "We can talk. But Tyler and Grace are staying. Whatever you have to say, they've earned the right to hear it." He nodded and sat heavily in Robert's old chair. "I've been thinking about what you said. About enabling, and enabling being enabled. And you were right. About all of it." He looked at Tyler and Grace. "I let you two lie for me. I let your mother worry about money while I pretended everything was fine. And He turned to me. "I humiliated you in front of our family, because it was easier than admitting I was failing. Go on." "I called you a burden because I felt like one. I said you weren't pulling your weight because I knew I wasn't pulling mine. And I let you pay our bills while I played golf, because I was too proud to admit I needed help and too scared to face how bad things really were." Tyler leaned forward. "So what are you going to do about it?" "I'm going to get a job, a real job with a steady paycheck. I'm going to pay Linda back every penny she's loaned us, and I'm going to learn to live within our means instead of expecting other people to make up the difference." "And?" Grace prompted. Mark looked confused. "And what?" "And apologize to Grandma properly." "Oh." He turned to me, his eyes sincere for the first time in years. "Linda, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for taking advantage of your generosity. I'm sorry for disrespecting you. I'm sorry for making you feel invisible and unappreciated when you've been the only thing keeping my family afloat. Thank you. Do you? Can you forgive me?" "I can forgive you, Mark. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back to the way things were." "I understand. The new rules stand." "The new rules stand." Grace got up and hugged her father. "I'm proud of you for apologizing." Tyler nodded. "It's a start." After Mark left, I made hot chocolate for the kids and sat with them in comfortable silence. "Grandma," Grace said eventually, "are you happy about how things are changing?" "I'm happy that people are finally being honest. Change is hard, but dishonesty is harder." "Will things get easier now?" "Some things will get easier. Some things will stay hard. But at least we'll all know where we stand." Tyler grinned. "I like knowing where I stand. It's better than guessing." That evening, Emily called. "Mom, Mark told me about your conversation. Thank you for listening to him. He needed to say those things, and I needed to hear them." "I need to say some things, too. I've been thinking about Thanksgiving, about how I just sat there when he humiliated you." "Emily, no, let me finish. I sat there because I was scared. Scared of fighting with Mark, scared of making things awkward, scared of choosing sides. But by not choosing your side, I chose his side by default." "Yes, you did." "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry I've been a coward. I'm sorry I let you carry us without acknowledging it. I'm sorry I made you feel like loving us meant being used by us. Thank you for saying that. I love you, Mom. Not because of what you do for us, but because of who you are. You're strong and generous and patient, and I've taken all of that for granted. I love you too, sweetheart. The kids want to come over this weekend. Just them. They said they want to help you with something. They're helping me plant a garden. A garden? I decided it's time to grow something just for me. Emily laughed, and it sounded lighter than it had in months. That sounds perfect. Grandma, why didn't you ever get married again, after Grandpa died? Grace asked, her small hands covered. In potting soil as we planted tomatoes. I thought about it, but I was so busy taking care of everyone else. I never took time to think about what I wanted for myself. Tyler looked up from the pepper plants. Do you regret that? I regret not knowing it was a choice. For 20 years, I thought my job was to be everyone's solution. I never considered that my job might be to live my own life. Are you going to date now? Grace asked with typical 10-year-old directness. Maybe. If I meet someone who sees me as a whole person, not just a helper. Like how we see you? Exactly like how you see me. Tyler stood up, brushing dirt off his knees. Grandma, I want to tell you something. I'm listening. You're my hero. I paused, a seedling halfway to its new pot. Tyler, no, really. You stood up to all of us. You told the truth even when it was scary. You made everyone face reality instead of pretending everything was fine. Grace nodded enthusiastically. And you taught us that it's okay to say no when people ask for too much. Where did you learn that lesson? From watching you, Tyler said. I told my friend Jake that I couldn't lend him money for lunch anymore because he never pays me back. He got mad. But then he started bringing his own lunch. Problem solved. And I told Mrs. Patterson that I couldn't stay after school to help her clean the classroom every day because I have homework. She said okay and asked someone else. You're both learning to set boundaries. I'm proud of you. We learned from the best, Tyler said. That afternoon, as we watered our new garden, my phone rang. Sarah's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, Grace urged. Maybe she wants to apologize too. Mom. Sarah's voice was strained. I need to talk to you. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Can I come over? An hour later, Sarah sat in my kitchen, looking smaller than I'd seen her in years. I've been thinking about what you said, about enabling and being enabled. And I hate that you're right. She twisted her hands in her lap. I've been treating you like a bank, like it's your job to fix my problems. Why do you think you did that? Because you let me. Because it was easier than figuring things out myself. Because I knew you'd always say yes. And now I'm scared. I've been depending on you for so long. I don't know if I can make it on my own. Grace appeared in the doorway. Aunt Sarah? Hi, sweetheart. Are you okay? Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I don't know. I might be. But I need to learn how to be okay without asking your grandma to fix everything for me. Grace walked over and patted Sarah's shoulder. Grandma's a good teacher. She's teaching Tyler and me lots of stuff. Like what? Like how to ask for help without being demanding, and how to say thank you properly, and how to solve our own problems first before asking grown-ups to solve them for us. Sarah looked at me. A 10-year-old gets it, and I'm 57 and just figuring it out. Better late than never, I said gently. Mom, I want to pay you back. All of it. It might take me a long time, but I want to pay back every penny I've borrowed. That's not necessary. Yes, it is. For me, it is. I need to know I can do that. I need to prove to myself that I'm not just a taker. Tyler appeared next to his cousin. Dad's paying Grandma back too. He got a job at the hardware store. How do you feel about that? Sarah asked. Good. It's better when people pay for their own stuff. Less stressful for everyone. Sarah laughed despite her tears. When did you get so wise? Grandma taught us that respect and responsibility go together, Grace explained. If you want people to respect you, you have to be responsible. And if you want to respect yourself, Tyler added, you have to stop expecting other people to carry you. Sarah looked at me with wonder. How did you raise such smart grandchildren? I didn't raise them differently than I raised you and Emily. I just stopped doing for them what they could do for themselves. So they learned to think for themselves. Exactly. Sarah stood up. I should go. I have some thinking to do, and some planning. Sarah, I called as she reached the door. Yeah? I love you. All of this, the boundaries, the consequences. It's because I love you. I know, Mom. I'm starting to understand that love isn't the same thing as rescue. After she left, Tyler and Grace helped me finish cleaning up from our gardening. Grandma, Grace said as we put away the tools, everyone's changing because you changed first. That's usually how it works. When one person in a family stops playing their old role, everyone else has to figure out new roles. Is that scary? Terrifying, but also exciting. Change means growth, and growth means possibility. Tyler grinned. I like possibility better than pretending. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. That evening, as I sat in my garden watching the sunset, I felt something I hadn't experienced in decades. Anticipation. Not anxiety about what crisis would come next, but genuine curiosity about what my life might become now that I'd stopped managing everyone else's lives. For the first time in 20 years, the future felt like mine to discover. 3 months later, I sat across from Mark in a coffee shop downtown, watching him count out bills. That's the last of it, he said, sliding the envelope across the table. $14,437. Every penny accounted for. Mark, you didn't have to. Yes, I did. For me, I did. He looked older, but somehow lighter. Linda, I need you to know something. Paying you back wasn't just about the money. What was it about? It was about proving to myself that I could, that I wasn't just a user who takes advantage of family. I tucked the envelope into my purse. How do you feel? Proud, scared, different. He paused. The hardware store wants to promote me to assistant manager. That's wonderful. Emily keeps saying she's proud of me. The kids actually seem to respect me now. It's strange, being seen as capable instead of Instead of what? Instead of the guy who needed constant rescue. You were never that guy, Mark. You were just stuck in a pattern that wasn't working. A pattern we all participated in, he acknowledged. Linda, can I ask you something? Of course. Why didn't you punish us? I mean, really punish us. You could have foreclosed on the house, cut us off completely, made us suffer for how we treated you. I considered his question carefully. Because punishment wasn't the goal. Change was the goal. But we hurt you. We used you. Yes, you did. But hurting you back wouldn't have helped anyone grow. Mark shook his head. I don't know if I would have been that generous if roles were reversed. Maybe not. But that's why it was important for me to be the one to break the cycle. What cycle? The cycle of hurt people hurting people, of resentment breeding more resentment, of family members punishing each other instead of healing together. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. "The kids are doing well," Mark said eventually. "They seem happy." Tyler's grades have improved since we stopped fighting about money all the time. And Grace. She's like a different kid, more confident. They're proud of their parents for facing reality. "Emily says you're dating someone." I smiled. "His name is Robert. Different Robert. We met at the library." "That's great, Linda. You deserve to be happy." "We all deserve to be happy, Mark. But we have to choose happiness over dysfunction." Is that what we were? Dysfunctional. We were stuck. Now we're unstuck. Thanks to you. Thanks to all of us being willing to change. When I got home, Emily was sitting on my front porch with Tyler and Grace. "Surprise visit?" I asked. "We wanted to show you something," Grace announced, jumping up. Tyler handed me a photo album. "We made this for you." I opened it to find pictures from the past few months. Mark at his new job, Emily at her reel, estate training classes, Sarah at her budgeting workshop, Tyler receiving an academic award, Grace at her dance recital. "It's called Our Family Growing Up," Grace explained. "Because that's what we've all been doing," Tyler added. "Growing up." Emily stood up and hugged me. "Mom, I have news. I got my real estate license." "Emily, that's wonderful." "I start with Patterson Realty next week. Part-time at first, but it's a beginning. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of me too. For the first time in years, I'm proud of who I'm becoming, instead of ashamed of who I've been." Grace tugged on my sleeve. "Tell her the other news, Mom." Emily's cheeks flushed. "Mark and I are going to marriage counseling." "How's that going?" "Hard, good, necessary." She paused. "We're learning to be partners instead of whatever we were before." "Codependence," Tyler supplied helpfully. "Tyler!" Emily laughed. "What? That's what the counselor called it. It's not a bad word. It's just what it was." "Your son is very wise," I told Emily. "He gets it from his grandmother." That evening, as we sat around my dinner table, a new tradition we'd started, Sarah called. "Put it on speaker," Grace demanded. "We want to hear how Aunt Sarah's doing." "Hi, everyone." Sarah's voice filled the room. "I have an update." "We're listening," I said. "I got a second job, weekend catering, and I made my first payment on Mom's loan." Tyler and Grace cheered. "How does it feel?" Emily asked. "Exhausting, empowering, like I'm finally taking care of myself instead of waiting for someone else to take care of me." "We're proud of you, Aunt Sarah," Grace called out. "Thanks, sweetie. Hey, Mom?" "Yes?" "I know I said this before, but thank you for refusing to enable me anymore, for forcing me to grow up." "You're welcome, sweetheart." After dinner, as we cleaned up together, Tyler asked, "Grandma, do you ever miss the old way? Miss being taken for granted? Miss being needed all the time?" I considered the question. "I miss feeling useful, but I don't miss feeling used." "What's the difference?" Grace asked. "Useful means people value what you contribute. Used means people just expect you to contribute." "Now we value what you contribute," Emily said, drying dishes beside me. "Now I contribute because I choose to, not because I have to." "That's better, right?" Grace asked. "Much better." As they prepared to leave, Mark appeared at my door. "Room for one more?" he asked hesitantly. "Always room for family," I said. He handed me a small wrapped package. A thank you gift. Inside was a framed photo from our recent family barbecue. All of us laughing together, genuinely happy. Look at the inscription, he said. On the bottom, in Mark's handwriting, to Linda, who taught us that real love requires growth. Thanks, you for loving us enough to let us fall down and learn to get back up. Mark, I whispered, touched. I mean every word. Looking around at these people I'd raised and supported and enabled and finally freed, I felt something I'd been missing for 20 years. The deep satisfaction of being truly seen, genuinely appreciated, and authentically loved, not for what I could do for them, but for who I had become when I finally started doing things for myself. 1 year later, I stood in my kitchen preparing stuffing, but this time, I wasn't alone. Emily was mashing potatoes while humming, actually humming. And Grace was setting the table with military precision. Grandma, should I put the fancy napkins out? Grace called. This is fancy napkin weather, I confirmed. Tyler appeared from the living room, where he'd been helping Mark set up extra chairs. Dad wants to know if you need him to carve the turkey. Tell your father I would love his help with the turkey. Tyler grinned. He's going to be so happy. He's been practicing. Practicing carving turkey. Mom got him a YouTube tutorial. He's been watching it for weeks. Emily laughed. He wants everything to be perfect for our first real family Thanksgiving. Our first honest family Thanksgiving, I corrected. What's the difference? Grace asked, arranging silverware. Real means we're not pretending anymore. Honest means we're not hiding anything from each other. Sarah arrived with her 3 children and a perfectly baked sweet potato casserole, her contribution that she'd insisted on making herself. Mom, this smells incredible, she announced, kissing my cheek. What can I do to help? You can tell me how the new apartment is working out. It's small, but it's ours. No help from anyone except my own hard work. She beamed with pride. The kids love having their own space that we can actually afford. I'm proud of you, Sarah. I'm proud of me, too. Finally. Mark entered the kitchen carrying Robert, my Robert, who'd become a regular fixture at family gatherings. Robert brought wine, Tyler announced. The good stuff. Everything's the good stuff when you're sharing it with people you care about, Robert said, setting down the bottles and kissing my forehead. Smooth talker, I accused. It's working, isn't it? Emily sidled up to me. I like him, Mom. He sees you. What do you mean? He looks at you like you're the whole world, not just the person who fixes things. That's because to him, I am the whole world, and he's mine. As we carried dishes to the table, I marveled at the scene. Mark was explaining football to Robert, who was listening with genuine interest. Sarah was helping Tyler with his calculus homework, patiently working through problems. Grace was showing Emily photos from her latest dance competition. Everyone was contributing. Everyone was engaged. Everyone was present. Okay, everyone, Mark called, standing at the head of the table. Before we eat, I want to say something. The room quieted. Last year, I stood up at this table and said some things that were cruel and untrue. I called Linda a burden who didn't pull her weight. His voice was steady but emotional. This year, I want to tell the truth. He looked directly at me. Linda, you are the strongest person I know. You carried all of us for years, asking nothing in return except basic respect, which we failed to give you. When you finally stood up for yourself, you taught us what real strength looks like. Tyler raised his glass. To Grandma, who saved our family by refusing to save us anymore. To Grandma, everyone echoed. As we began eating, the conversation flowed naturally. Sarah talked about her promotion at work. Emily shared stories from her real estate clients. Mark described his plans for the hardware store expansion. Tyler and Grace debated the merits of their respective schools. "Linda," Robert said quietly, "you look happy." "I am happy." "Different happy than when we first met?" I considered this. When we met, I was happy because I was escaping my problems. Now I'm happy because I solved my problems. What was the solution? Learning the difference between helping and enabling, between love and rescue, between being needed and being used. Grace looked up from her mashed potatoes. "Grandma, will you tell the story again, about how you changed everything?" "Which part of the story?" "The part where you decided to stop being invisible." I looked around the table at these faces I loved, faces that now saw me clearly, valued me genuinely, and appreciated me authentically. "Once upon a time," I began, "there was a woman who thought love meant saying yes to everything, giving without limit, and never asking for anything in return." "That sounds like a fairy tale," Tyler observed. "It was a fairy tale, because real love, healthy love, requires boundaries, mutual respect, and people who are willing to grow." "What happened to the woman?" Grace asked, even though she knew the story by heart. "She learned that the most loving thing she could do was stop rescuing people who needed to rescue themselves. And then everyone grew up, including her." "The end?" Grace prompted. I looked at Robert, at my children and grandchildren, at this table full of people who now chose to be here rather than needing to be here. "No, sweetheart, not the end, the beginning." As we cleared dishes together, everyone contributing without being asked, I felt the deep satisfaction of a job well done. Not the job of fixing everyone's problems, but the harder job of teaching them to fix their own problems. Later, as Robert and I sat on my back porch watching the sunset, he asked, "Any regrets about how you handled everything?" "Just one." "What's that?" "I wish I'd found my backbone 20 years sooner. Maybe you weren't ready 20 years ago. Maybe. Or maybe I needed to get fed up enough to fight for myself. And now? Now I know that the people who truly love you will rise to meet your expectations, and the people who don't." I shrugged. "Well, at least you know where you stand." "Where do you stand now?" I looked through the window at my family cleaning up together, laughing together, being together by choice rather than obligation. I stand in my own power, surrounded by people who see me, value me, and love me not for what I do for them, but for who I am. That's a good place to stand, the best place I've ever stood. As the stars came out, I reflected on the year that had changed everything. The year I learned that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be used. The year I discovered that boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges to healthier relationships. The year I finally understood that being someone's mother, grandmother, or family member doesn't mean being their safety net. It means loving them enough to let them learn to fly on their own. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they learn to fly well enough to come back and visit by choice, bringing gratitude instead of demands, appreciation instead of expectation, and love instead of need. That, I realized, is what real family looks like. Not perfect, but honest. Not easy, but worth it. Not dependent, but interdependent. Not a fairy tale, but something better. Reality with room for everyone to grow.